Howdy, Buffalo Bart here, and welcome. As the title suggests here, we are going to demonstrate how to import real-world terrain into Unreal Engine 4 quickly and pretty painless. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and add a link into the description of the video for our website. And that website is going to be where you can get your very own version of the terrain. And go ahead and add that quickly. And there we go. And I will link it into the chat as well. So, the website itself is Terrain Party. It's terrain.party. Pretty simple. Alright, so what you do is you go into this website, and what it's going to do is it's going to start off with, if I refresh the page, it's going to start me off somewhere in Europe. And as far as I know, it does not work in Europe. It only works in the United States, but I can check into that. I've already picked out an area, and what you've got is this little blue box that you're going to have to drag around to the location you want to go to. And I've already selected some terrain just away from Moab, Utah, and chose this because it's got a river going through it and some varied terrain, and you can actually go over here and change to shaded relief and actually see the terrain that you're going to get. So what I've tried to do is I'm zoomed in as far as I can get on this map, and I've got it scaled to 8 kilometers. So this should be 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers in this inner box here. So this should be the area, the inner box that we're going to get, but we'll look to be sure whenever we get into the map with it. So once you've picked out where you want to go, now try to get it to where I can get as much of the details of this part here and this part here into the thing. So from there, all you do is you click on the cloud, export. We're going to call this Moab, and wait a couple seconds. It will then pop up with the download link. So there we go, we got that. We're going to save this, and we're done one for a test. I've done this a couple times. So, and I know that it works, but I guarantee that there'll be something that'll cause it to screw up, just because I'm broadcasting. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete the other two that I was working on, or the other one I was working on, because I didn't have the terrain that I really wanted. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and minimize that website. You go to your hard drive where you've saved it to, and you right click, and I'm assuming you're using WinRAR, and then you extract to whatever, and it's going to create that folder, and inside there you're going to have your height maps. Now you can use any of these that you like, but either this one right here, the merged, or the one that says 10M on the end is going to be your best bet, because this is the resolution. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use this one right here. So we know which one we're going to use. So let's go ahead and go into Unreal Engine 4. I've got a project set up, and I'm going to go to File, New Level, Default, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this sphere reflection and the floor, and I'm going to go ahead and select Landscape. I'm going to select this box right here for the height map file, and then I'm going to locate where I've actually got it downloaded to, and so I'm going to use this one right here, the 10M. Click on Open, and then it should already be set up, and you can see it's 18 by 18, so the scale may be off. We may need to actually size it up to 18 kilometers by 18 kilometers, but 8 is good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Fit Data and then Import, and just going to go ahead and give you a little bit of a scale here. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit and actually move my camera speed up just a wee bit. As you can see, just how quickly we've got terrain in here. Now this is a pretty deep canyon here, but if we look at our player start, I'm going to zoom into it. Our player starts actually way up in the air. So what we can do is we notice that our landscape is based off of the elevation that it was received from. So even though it's set to 100 and our player start is set to 112, the terrain itself is much lower. So if you wanted to, you can go ahead, and what I do is I go to my player start, because he's going to be right there on the normal 0 line, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that up just a wee bit. I'm looking at, we're at 4470, and then let's go ahead and hit world settings, third person game mode, and hit play. And we were still a little bit above the terrain, but that's no big deal. But just that quickly, I mean, we're talking what, less than 5 minutes with me explaining everything slowly. We went from picking out a terrain to walking on it in Unreal Engine 4. So thankfully there's no fall damage, but you can see that this is all real world terrain. Now it's going to be pretty drastic. The location that I chose had a lot of terrain to it, but you can choose whatever area that you like, and the lighting is terrible on it right now as well because, well, it's a deep ass valley. Now you could actually come back in here and hit some smoothing and change it around, make it more suitable to your needs, but you know, right now you're looking at 324 unbuilt areas. That's the amount of tiles that it created. So if you hit build and let it do its thing, it won't take but a couple moments here to do that as well, and it'll build the lighting and you're good to go. So you can see it's moving pretty quickly. But if I want to show that again, I could actually go and pick out another section and import it again, and yeah, I mean literally it's that quick to grab some terrain, throw it in here, and walk around on it. And if you're not happy with that one, say you wanted to try it with the merged height map, then it's pretty quick as well. We'll let it finish doing its lighting build, which again won't take very long. It'll take a moment to get it kicked in, but because it's so drastic a terrain, it's trying to figure out the lighting on all the different angles. So it may actually take a little bit longer to do lighting builds on drastic terrain like this. But if you have a little bit flatter terrain, it's not going to take near as long for doing the lighting build. If it takes too long, I can just go ahead and cancel it. I'm not worried about doing the lighting build. But I wanted to show the pros and cons of doing this. Definitely one of the biggest pros is, holy crap, it's fast. You literally, in less than 5 minutes time, you can be walking on the terrain that you picked out. And I've seen other methods that were online, and they're using other programs, and some that are paid programs. This Terrain Party website's free. It was actually created for City Skylines game to try to help people build terrains inside there, which I actually haven't tried it in that game yet, and I do have that game. But like I said, if you want to rapidly get terrain into your game, this is the fastest way that I've found so far to actually get the terrain in. And if you want to go in and then start painting, or if you decide you don't like it, you can quickly rip it back out. You know, you can tell if you're going to like it or not before you even do a lighting build. I just did it so I have a few moments here to talk about it. But see, now it's finally kicking along pretty good. Once it gets done with this building, this lighting, we can actually try a different terrain. But it actually takes longer to build your lighting the first time. And then every time you do your lighting, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. You can see this is actually a really big world. So what I wanted to do also as part of either this video or another video dedicated to this as well, but is to experiment around with it and see if we can reduce the actual size, or just play around with the settings a little bit to kind of smooth it out or make some changes to it. Now, the cons that I have noticed, and I'll show you here in just a second, we're just about done with the lighting build. The height map file size is 1081 by 1081, and this is by default how it comes from their website. So that actual PNG file that you get for the height map may not actually be the best way to go. I would say probably resize it to like 4096 by 4096, and it might actually get you a little bit more realistic terrain. You know, like I said, this was a really drastic area. This is part of Moab, Utah, and this is a deep river anyway. But here's one of the other cons: is on the edge of your map, you get this flat banding effect. See what I'm saying? You've got this flat band that goes all the way around the entire map. I've noticed that on every time I've used this, it does it. Well, I mean, looking at it from the side here, you can see there's a drastic slope going downhill this way as well. So this is a really big terrain. Alright, so let's try a couple things, see if we can refine this a little bit more. I know this is terrible, but let's go back over here to, actually, we can grab our landscape and our landscape gizmo active actor, and I'm just going to delete it. Yeah, I know. Went through all that trouble just to get it there, and then just delete it. Click on my player again, hit F to focus on it, and I'm going to try the another method here. I'm going to take that same file. I'm going to edit it with GIMP, which GIMP is also a free program, and I'm going to actually resize that program. And all I did was I right-clicked on that file and said edit with GIMP, and it went through its startup process and opened up GIMP. Now I can actually go in here to image and scale image. Now you can see it's 1081 by 1081. Let's actually try it at 4096 by 4096. Scale the image, and now I really have to back out considerably. Won't be able to see it in here. It doesn't really matter if we can see the whole image in here, but we've taken it and resized it 4 times the original size, and I'm going to hit Control Shift and E to export, and I'm going to go ahead and call this 4K Moab. Not that it really matters all that much. I'll let it finish saving. It is saving, by the way. And then I will go ahead and exit GIMP. Discard changes because I don't care. Go into my landscape. Click on here. Open up 4K Moab. And fit data. Now let's see, it's changed it to number of components is 17 by 17, whereas the other one was 18 by 18. And then now whenever I open it up and import, let's give it a few seconds here to finish doing its thing, and then, wow, it's really blocky. So you can see the it looks like we created a Minecraft world. So that probably wasn't the best thing in the world. Resizing it to 4K, it actually opened it up and it looks a lot nicer in many ways, but then again also you've got that that same stepping going on with the resolution change, so that's probably not the best thing in the world. So probably have to stick with the original 1K image and then maybe do some other stuff from there. Not that I hate this, but let's actually go to our player start, focus in, and let's grab our landscape and let's bring it up. So if we look at our details panel, we're at 4,000. Let's hit play and see what happens there. Okay, so yeah, you can see the stepping here is like 200 high on, which is the height of the character is roughly 200. So you've got some drastic steps in here that would, if you wanted to keep this terrain the way that it is, I mean, you can go back in there with the smoothing tool and gradually fix everything, and it will take quite a while to do it. But you go back into your landscape and sculpt, change that over to smooth, and then if you don't watch your tools brush size and your tool strength, it'll get a little bit too much. So it's doing a pretty drastic job of smoothing right here. So you really have to play around with your tools, see what you want to do. If you don't like this big stepping, then I would say probably go ahead and stick with the original 1K file image, but just choose your terrain a little bit more wisely. You can see whenever you're doing the smoothing tool, one of the things that it helps to do is if you look at the shape of the squares here before and now that I'm going over it, it's going to try to resize those and sculpt and smooth out the terrain itself, and not just the terrain but also the way that the materials are going to get applied to it. Because if you apply the materials to something that's got a lot of stretching to it, it's going to really screw up your materials. So when you actually go to paint your terrain, it's going to look pretty tacky. So you can, if you want to go ahead and just make your brush larger so you can speed up the process, turn down your tool strength, and it should smoothen out things pretty good without too drastic of a tear on there. You just want to smooth out the way that that blockiness came into it. You can see that it doesn't take very much effort to do it. It just depends on how bad you want to keep this terrain the way it is. Because I know I don't like the blocky look to it, and if this is all you got to do, and you're probably something like this, you may not be using all of this terrain. You're talking about 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers. I mean, even scaled out like this, you're talking about a map size that's 18 by 18, or this one was 17 by 17. It's a pretty dang big map. But I would actually be happy with the way this one came out versus the original. And I don't mind actually coming back in here doing the smoothing. And to me, I think it looks more open. But then again, just choosing the right terrain will help with a lot of this too. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through the entire thing, but just want to kind of give an example of what it looks like after you do some smoothing to it, so it actually looks nicer. But the other thing that I did want to look at is, we know what our terrain looked like in the terrain party website. So let's actually zoom out. I'm in 7 by speed and it's slow coming up. We had, let's actually look at terrain party. We had this little section right here that kicked in versus this long straight stretch. So let's see how it actually comes into that. And we've got the long straight stretch, and then we have the kick in here, and try to orient it the same way that it was in here. So this came in at roughly a 45-degree angle. And there's that kick, and there's the other one right there. So what we actually ended up getting was the entire blue square itself. So this entire section right here is what we got, and not just a smaller section on the inside. So that answers one good question about what it actually did. Like I said, even with 7 by speed on my my camera movement, it still takes a while to zoom in. Just want to smooth this out, go to my player start so I can see, okay, this is where we are. This will be a good enough representation of what it looks like. So see, it's a lot smoother. You don't have those jagged edges. And if we walk over, let's see, we can actually make it even faster to do it this way. We haven't done this section yet, so let's come over here and right click on the map and select play from here, and now I can just play from that one spot. So you can see you're starting to get some of the bumpiness that we haven't smoothed out yet, but I think once I smooth it, this map would actually be a whole lot better to work with. So if you've got an actual water material that you want to use, that would be good. You could actually set some water terrain in. I actually don't have anything for materials in here. This was just a quick project, But if we go to add new and add features, add content pack, starter content, add that to the project, and then it takes a couple seconds to add that in. If you want to create a water feature inside here, it's pretty quick to do as well. But it depends on how good you want your water to be. If you want your water to actually have post-processing and actually have the water effect where you're swimming and that kind of stuff, you spend a few more minutes setting it up. I'm just wanting to set up something quickly. Like say, if you wanted to have water fill the valley here, you could actually come in here to your materials. You actually have two different types of water, lake and ocean. So what you could actually do is come in here and throw in a plane, and it's going to be really tiny. I'm not going to worry about stretching this out the whole way, but you'll get the idea. Let's just go ahead and scale it here to 100 by 100. And then the actual material, let's try putting a lake on there. Or we can actually put ocean on it. Let's actually stick with the lake. So yeah, this is, you'd end up having to do some major scaling on that to get it right. And then just kind of move it around. And let's go ahead and go to play from here. And there we go. Alright, anybody got any questions or thoughts or concerns or whatever? That was two different ways we could do it. We could just stick with the original terrain's height map size of 1081 by 1081. I resized it to 4096 by 4096, and it actually broadened the terrain a little bit more. Kind of made it really blocky, as you see, but you know, a little bit of elbow grease, you can actually smooth everything out. Now, of course, this water is not going to actually be water. Just here for the cosmetics, just for showcasing right now. I'm by no means a materials expert. But yeah, it's just amazing to have that much terrain built in 3-4 minutes. Yay. Of course, we're standing on top of the water. We didn't set any properties on it. But that or that. For something with this much water, I wouldn't use just one. I'd probably have multiples. That way I'm not trying to stretch this thing out to like 10,000 by 10,000, which is drastic here. Let's try still the wrong size, but we're not zeroed out either. So let's try, well, we did it 4096 by 4096. So what that actually did was it actually did it right here to the edge of where this flattening is. So 4096 by 4096 causes that little bit of stretching here on the end. Doesn't matter what file size we did it in, it's always doing that same thing. So I'll try 4500 by 4500. Close enough for me. So that's it. Anybody got any questions on how you can do this, or you want me to do another example, or I'm actually going to lower the water down a little bit so we can see more of our valley. Oop, wrong thing. I want the water, dumbass. I know this is bigger than the actual river, but it don't matter. This is our house. We can do what we want, right? Another example. That's easy enough. So, in the United States, pick out an area where you'd like to see. This was just north of Moab, Utah. So, you know, this was just an area that I knew had lots of terrain. So I'm not going to bother doing any terrain builds on this. I will, however, go ahead and save all. We're going to save this one as Moab. LA, how about that? That's good. Alright, so let's find... We can go back to right here, go to our street map, and I'm going to grab my little blue square. I haven't been to LA in quite some time. Any particular part of LA? Down here by the ports, or this area right over here by Newport Beach, maybe? How's that look? That look good? And it's covering Newport Beach, Balboa Peninsula, all the way up to Costa Mesa. Alright, so this is really complicated. So to follow these instructions really well, once you put your box here where you want it to go, and okay, this is the area, this big block here is where I want to copy this into Unreal Engine 4. Click on the cloud. We're going to call this LA whatever beach. And okay, now here's the hard part. We have to wait for a couple seconds and then save file and save, and then let's go ahead and minimize this because we're done with that. Go to where we had that save to. We're going to right click, extract, and let's go to the folder. Now it's not showing a heck of a lot right here. Let's actually, okay, it's there. Okay, it's just height maps are hard to see whenever there's not a huge amount of terrain. And if you look at the actual terrain from there, we can actually come in here into shaded relief, and you can see that there is some terrain, but mostly it's just the water. If we'd gone farther south, we'd have had a lot of mountainous stuff. But let's go ahead and look at Unreal Engine 4. Let's create a new level. Default. Going to get rid of that because I don't like it. Get rid of the floor because we don't need it. Going to go to landscape. Click on the little dots here to open up our height map. Go to our file. I'm going to use the 10M. Click open. Fit to data. See, this is saying number of components is 5. And let's hit import. Now you see how drastic this was? See how rough it is? Not liking that. That's pretty rough looking. Let's actually I'm going to go back in here because I had the roadmap selected. I don't think it actually made a difference, but I'm going to delete what we just downloaded. It's not like it took very long to do it. I'm actually going to grab my landscape and landscape gizmo and delete those so we can get rid of them. And then we'll come back into here. Now that we're in our shaded relief, let's go ahead and download it one more time. Hit the cloud, LA Basin, sounds good. Click on that, wait for a couple seconds. Okay, and go back to our folder, right click, extract, and let's go ahead and go back into here, go to our landscape, click on our dots, and since we deleted I deleted the folder we were just in, I have to go locate it again. But it was in my terrains, LA Basin. Let's try that one. Still showing 5x5 fit data import, and there we go. So it's doing the same thing as we had before. So what I'm assuming is that's actually a bridge that was in the map. And this is actually the coastline here. So these would actually be islands. Let's actually try doing something a little bit different with this one. Let's actually go into that same file, and I'm going to go ahead and select both of those. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because we see how it came out. I'm going to go into our folder, and I'm going to right click on that file, edit with GIMP, and then once GIMP comes up, we can see, well, almost nothing there. It's so dark, hard to see. But let's go ahead and do image, scale image, and we did 4096 by 4096 last time. Let's do the same thing. We'll do 4096 by 4096 scale. Control Shift E, LA underscore Basin underscore 4K. We'll export that as a PNG file. Sorry, no, you couldn't see that. And no, I don't want to save any changes. And then we can go back in here and let's try that new version we just did, which was the LA Basin 4K. Open that up. Now it's 17 by 17. Fit the data, import. So we're looking at this and we're looking at that. Primarily we're looking at this and the overall resolution there. And let's actually zoom out. Wow, that's huge. Yeah, I don't see that as being any better. And let's take a look at that. I'm assuming that was either a bridge or something that was over here. Yeah, something like that right there. Again, we can go back to our smoothing. And we could actually fix the entire map if we wanted to, that way. Kind of liked it better the other way. Well, let's get an idea. I'm just going to smooth this section right here, and then across here. And I am assuming that that's probably bridges. I haven't been to LA in probably 10 years, so we should do this. Let's make sure our world setting is set to third person, and we'll right click and play from here. Yeah, I think the other way was a little bit better. So let's actually go ahead and dump those two, go back to our landscape, and let's go back to and try our merged. And see, it's back to 5 by 5, so fit data, you can see the overall resolution is 1200 instead of 4K. So let's import that, and there we go. So again, with this section right here being like that, what I would actually do is just come back in and bring my tool size down drastically and tool strength down, and I would just run that smoothing tool across that and either fix that or get rid of it. Because if it's actually a bridge, then I would probably get rid of it, and it would help if I actually put on the damn right tool right here. Smooth. So yeah, something like that right there. It's going to take a little cleanup because you do have some jagged edges. You know, it's not 100% perfect every time. Like I said, if this was a bridge that was right there, then I would definitely I would come in this section right here, go to my flatten tool, and I would just go ahead and flatten it out, and then whenever I wanted to put the bridge in, I would actually make a bridge. Either make my own model for it, or just use some BSPs to represent that, and let it ride from there. But anything where you've got this drastic tearing like that, definitely want to run the smoothing tool over it, so that it's going to clean up the way that the materials apply to it. So I have noticed that in the past, whenever you start applying materials to these huge maps like this, then by doing this, it looks a lot better. And I'm being drastic on my smoothing. You know, if I was really trying to get this perfect, then I would spend a lot more time on it than what I'm doing right now. Alright, any other questions on this method? I'm sure there's other ways you can do, like if you go into GIMP, you can, or into Photoshop or whatever, you could try some filters on the image to try to prevent this from happening, so that it actually has a smoother transition between the colors, so you don't have this weird rough terrain where you got weird peaks like that. I mean, if you just wanted to let it ride and just hit the smoothing tool on it, that'll do normal, because this is actually pretty drastic for the shoreline. I'm pretty sure that the water is not that deep, that close to the edge. So yeah, I kept trying to find other ways of going through. You know, I watched a lot of the Vertus tutorials, and that's how I got my start in doing a lot of these things. And the method he was using, it worked, but it involved using a program that you had to get a demo of, and if you don't get what you need within the 30-day demo, you either have to create another false account or whatever else and all that junk. And I don't want to have to create an account, or I don't want to have to pay for something unless I actually have to. And I just kept looking around, and once I found this method right here and saw how quick it was like, you know what? And I've been doing and messing around with this for a little while. I just don't usually have a whole lot of need for huge terrains like this. But you know, if I need a huge terrain, that it's so much easier for me to just, okay, I want a mountainous terrain. Okay, no problem. Just go in there and pick out an area like Moab, Utah, or somewhere I know that's in the mountains, and like Washington State or Oregon or what have you, and pick out an area that I know has got a lot of terrain to it, and I can just go from there. Now, as for other countries, I have noticed that the primary method that let me quit screwing with this. I'll actually save all for the heck of it. Call this LA_Basin. You can always come back and screw around with this later. If you look at other areas, see, this is, if you want rocky terrain, we got plenty in the United States. But you try to grab that little finger, and let's go over here to Europe. I'm actually going to change this back over to street map so I can see a little bit easier. So what I've noticed was in the US, you can see you've got this boundary around the country itself. I don't know if that purple line has anything to do with it, because that same purple line is around here as well. So if we were to drag this over to, say, Munich, and let's look at the terrain, see if there's anything around Munich. I haven't been to Munich. Oh my god. 1989? 88 or 89? I think it was 89. 1989. when I was in Munich. See, it's not wanting to show me anything for the USGS is United States Geological Survey, so it's not quite in there. So what about over here? As I zoom in, we got nothing. That area's just not loading. So I know it works in the US. So I would have to look at it and see if there's a setting maybe that you can change to get different areas. But if you go to the street map, say North Carolina, the little place that I used to go to is up around Basin Lake, it's an off-road area. You know, I've been there, and I try to find it on the friggin' map. I can never find it on the damn map. I can drive there all day long, and I know it's off of, let's see, you take US Highway 52 all the way up to Florence. Yeah, I know, like, you guys really care about me giving directions on how to get to an off-road park in South Carolina or North Carolina. But yeah, it's I've lost my little square right there. So yeah, you find a location you really want to go to. Like, there's Basin Lake that I was looking for, and you scroll in. You pick your shaded relief, look at your terrain, figure out what you want. Say if this is what I want to use, then it's just that easy to go ahead and click on the cloud. You know, lots of thunder. It's getting ready to storm here. Alright, so we just click on that, click on save, save it to the folder I've been working in, go to it, right click, extract it, and go back into Unreal Engine 4, create new level, default, get rid of that ugly thing, and click on landscape, your three little dots, and I'm going to use the merge this time. Fit the data, import. There we go. Yeah, I know this is another drastic mountainous terrain. There's actually an off-road park that I used to go to quite often. Game mode, third person, hit play, and fall for about a week because we didn't set our height for our terrain. Well, there you go. That's good enough to get you guys going with creating your own terrains rapidly, getting them into the game, and then you can take some time to smooth them out and play around with them the best you want to. And I just fell off the edge. But like I said, the downside is I noticed that every time you do it, you get this strip around the outside edge that's flat. I don't know why it's doing that, but it does it every time. Let's grab my player start. Make sure you can delete the player start. Right click, play from here. So yeah, quick and easy. Any other questions so far? Yeah, it kind of does which one you choose. I just used the merged on that one, and you see how the terrain came out. It's not bad. It's kind of hilly. You can see all the stuff in here. But if I go in here and grab those two, delete them, and click on my terrain again, pull in a different height map, and if I use this one right here, see this, the 10M means this is supposed to be accurate down to 10 meters, where this is accurate to 30 meters. So I'm going to grab that one right there and open, fit the data, and import. So you look at the terrain difference that we've got there. Really bumpy now. So you'd end up spending more time trying to, this is the exact same terrain that we just used, but by changing to the different height map. You see, we're going to ignore the outside banding, but you see the drastic change in the way it looks. So let's actually grab those two again, delete it. Let's grab a different height map and used merged on this one. Let's try the 10M. Open, fit data, import, and you can see how much smoother this terrain is versus the other one. So you can try them. It's just that easy to switch back and forth to see which one you like the most. When it comes to the banding on the outside, what you can do is, I would say, go ahead and just make your own terrain for that. Another thing I wanted to experiment with that I don't remember if you could do or not, and that was to actually click on manage and select tiles. And what I'm doing is I'm left clicking, then I'm hitting control left click on these outside edges, and what if I want to get rid of these and just show what's in the middle there? You have the selection tool, got delete, and there we go. I just deleted those extra sections, and now we're down to a 3x3 system, and we just got rid of it. Go to our tool, move to level. I've never tried that before, but if you're doing level streaming, you can grab this section and move it around to your level streaming. You could add new landscapes to this. I'm actually going to leave this the way it is. Go back to my regular tile, and see I chopped off the outside edges, so now we don't have that banding on it anymore. What is that? Do we have a bridge there? So go here, go to our sculpt, terrain, and flatten. I'm going to reduce my tool or my brush size, and I'm just going to drag through here and delete that. Come back over here to smoothing, and there we go. So that's how you can actually get rid of that banding, is just by going into the manage and clicking on the sections that you want to get rid of. Say if I want to get rid of this one, and this one, and then change my selection tool to delete, and then I left clicked again, and there they go. I didn't mean to do it, so I can hit Control Z and bring them back. So if you want to just cut off the edges and get rid of those outside the lip area where you get that weird banding effect, then just do that. Coolio. Now, I know this is kind of a lot of terrain here, and if you want to go in and do your smoothing, go your sculpt, smoothing, and change your brush size as big as you can get it, set your tool strength to 0.1, so you have just a minor tool strength. You can just run this over the entire map pretty quickly whenever you shrink your map down the way we just did, and just go over it and just smooth out the whole entire map. It'll take out some of the steepness of the overall map, and it'll also blend those edges together so that you're not going to have a lot of tearing in your materials, unless you just want that rocky terrain. Yes, you're going to lose a lot of detail when you do it this way, but it's just a matter of, if you want to have this playable, then you can't walk on some of these steep slopes. This makes it a little bit nicer for your materials to lay out. And then we'll come back over here, go to this. I'm going to right click right here and play from here. Now we can get out and walk around the terrain. Like I said, this, you can see my shadow off in the distance as I'm jumping down this mountainside. So I can't think of anything that's any faster than this for building terrain. You know, I said, how quick was that to import terrain? So, I mean, I'll do one more quick example just to finish off this video. I'm going to go ahead and save all and save selected. And then let's grab our map from Terrain Party one more time. Go to our street view. And where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? Let's go to New York. Almost never go to New York. Well, I mean, I've been to New York, and it's not like I avoid it like any, well, I do avoid it whenever possible. So let's grab, we can pretend we're in the division. No, we don't want to go to Jersey City. Let's grab this section right here, and we can make our own copy of the division. There we go. Let's go to shaded relief. Not a whole lot of terrain to work with here. That's something I would personally choose if I'm trying to find something for terrain. But again, you know, we're grabbing this one section, and we're going to go ahead and do the export button here. New York. Type in the name, hit enter, wait a couple seconds for the download link to pop up, and tell it where you want it to go, and we're going to go there. I'm going to go into that folder. I'm going to extract it. Again, all I'm doing is right click, extract, and then that's it. We got our files there. So we can minimize that guy. We can go to new, level, default, dump that, and we're going to click on landscape, click on that. We're going to go ahead and quickly navigate to our folder. We're going to go to merged, open, fit the data, import, and there we go. There's our terrain. And again, be one of those things where you want to go ahead and just, hey, ass wipe, why did you change my damn tool? So you just hit your smoothing tool, clean up your edges, and I'm just worried about cleaning up the edges of the water here. And what we can do is, once we clean up our edges, I'm not worried about cleaning up in here because I'm going to delete those. And we know that these little spikes sticking out, those are actually, I guess, part of the dock system. There's your bridge. But again, really quickly to show you how to get rid of these edges. I think that if I was going to do that to get rid of the edges, I would actually go to a larger file size, but just click on the ones you want to get rid of. And then go to selection tool, delete, click, and that's it. Just that quick, you've gone in here and deleted those. Again, just want to make sure that you've got your terrain smoothed out the best you can. And you've got your terrain. I think on this one right here for New York, what I would probably end up doing is going into that file itself, right click, edit with GIMP. I know it's kind of moving pretty quick there, but go into it, go to image, scale image, 4096 by 4096, scale, Control Shift E, and we're going to save this to NYC 4K. Export. I didn't change any of my settings on my export for my PNG, and we don't need you anymore. Discard changes. Let's go ahead and grab these two guys, dump them, go back to our thingy, click here, double click on that, fit the data. Now it's 17 by 17, and if we do that, let's take a look how big this terrain is going to be now. It's 17 components by 17 components. Much bigger. So I don't think I'd probably do that. I would actually go back to our object mode, click on these two, delete them. And actually, let's see what happens if we do that and change it from 17 by 17. Let's change it to 8 by 8 on our number of components and import that. It cuts our resolution in half, but it also makes our map size smaller as well. So all I'm going to do now is just going to come over here, going to make sure our game mode is set to third-person game mode, and going to quickly go to my smoothing. I'm just going to do that, and then right here, play from here. I think it's actually a pretty good scale for New York. You can actually play around with the best you can to make it even nicer. But like I said, this was just a quick show and tell. With the same terrain and less than 7 minutes time, I picked out the terrain, imported it, and even edited the file and screwed around with it a couple different times. Played around with 3 different versions of the same thing so that I could pick out the terrain and see if I liked it or not. And if I don't like it, I can always just click on landscape gizmo, bang, delete it, get rid of it, and do it again. Go to my landscape, pick that. Let's try, I don't know, let's try the 10, open, import. It's smaller, it's 5 by 5. And this one is really not going to matter all that much whenever you've got your stretching. So go back to our smooth tool, and you can just smooth that out, and then it won't be that much of a big deal because the terrain is mostly flat anyway. So you can just kind of detail your edges. So I'm going to call it quits on this video. I think this was pretty good information for people who want to kind of beat the dead horse here quite a bit, but for people trying to get real world terrain, or they want to get terrain in their maps a whole lot faster, just grip it and rip it, throw it in there and be done with it. Then spend some time to detail your terrain a little bit later if you need to. But if you just want to get terrain into your map so you can work on the other stuff, like so for the pier sections, I would actually just blend those out, and if I wanted them to be a representative of New York City, then I would just go ahead and make my own piers separately. I would do them out of BSP geometries instead of trying to let them be land masses like that. That way you can actually make it look more correct. It's going to add more actors whenever you start to put those in, but the more detail you put into a map, the better it's going to look. Alright, any parting words? Say experiment. Learn new things every day. You stop learning, you stop living. So get out there, experiment, play around with this. If you have any questions, you know how to find me. Just jump on my Discord and say hello. If I don't respond, then either AFK or just in a foul-ass mood, don't want to talk to no damn body. How about that? I'm old. I get grumpy. It's my prerogative, right? Alright, we're going to save this. Not that I really care, but we're going to call this NYC. Do that. Save all again. And that's it. We're just going to close it out. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll talk to you guys later, and have a good one.